have drawn Kenya and Tanzania into one of the most disturbing global of the last 2 decades. Just a few days ago, the United States Department of Justice released more than 3.5 million pages of long-sealed documents, emails, photographs, videos, and investigative records that had remained hidden for years. Their release now raises troubling questions extending far beyond the borders of the United States among the countries repeatedly mentioned: Kenya, Tanzania, Somalia, and Senegal.
Welcome back to the community once again, ladies and gentlemen. Now, the Epstein case has actually shocked the world, ladies and gentlemen, but a new twist has actually emerged, that sent shivers down the spine. Recently, newly released files or documents have actually revealed or exposed disturbing connections between the infamous or notorious Jeffrey Epstein and parts of Africa. It is not just about powerful elites in the Western world anymore, ladies and gentlemen. Africa, it seems, was also drawn into this web of exploitation, and of course, the truth is only beginning to surface, ladies and gentlemen. The files or document now unsealed, by the U.S. Department of Justice shed light on the far-reaching consequences or results of Epstein's criminal network. They actually link several nations in East and of course West Africa, ladies and gentlemen, including Kenya, Somalia, Tanzania, and of course Senegal. These countries or states are now part of an unfolding investigation into the network Epstein allegedly ran. But what exactly does this mean for Africa, ladies and gentlemen? That is the question. How deeply was the region involved? And perhaps more importantly, who knew about it? Kenya and Somalia, ladies and gentlemen, have been flagged as areas tied to potential exploitation. The files or documents suggest that these nations or states were involved in what it can actually be described as a network of horrors that spanned continent. Tanzania and of course Senegal, on the other hand, ladies and gentlemen, are identified as possible transit routes where these activities took place or happened.
According to the files, Kenya and Somalia are flagged as areas associated with potential activity. Tanzania and Senegal are identified as transit routes allegedly used within Epstein's wider trafficking network. One location stands out: Malindi, on Kenya's coast, described in the documents as a haven. The files also allege Epstein's close association with a former Kenyan president.
This discovery isn't just about uncovering a scandal. It is about understanding the wider implications of traffic that touched nations or countries far beyond the borders of the United States of America. The files not only expose the global scale of Epstein's actions, but also raise important questions about how much power such network can actually control. Precious audience, please make sure again to stay with us as we actually dive deeper into these shocking revelations. Don't forget to actually like, subscribe, and turn on your notifications bell for more neutral and analytical videos like this. The newly unsealed files or documents do more than just confirm suspicions, ladies and gentlemen. They bring attention to the disturbing reality of how Epstein's network reached into East Africa, Kenya and Somalia, two nations or countries with strategic locations along Africa's coastline, are named as potential hotspots for activities. Kenya, known for its rich culture and bustling city, ladies and gentlemen, has become part of a chilling international story, or narrative. Somalia, with its turbulent history, also finds itself linked or connected to this. The records suggest that these states or countries were not just unaware, bystanders. Instead, they are marked as regions where exploitation may have occurred or happened under the radar of a global attention. Kenya's significance or importance in this particular narrative, ladies and gentlemen, is twofold. As a nation, it serves as a hub, of economic activity in East Africa specifically, and its proximity to the Indian Ocean gives it easy access to international routes, making it a prime candidate for route. Meanwhile, Somalia's ongoing challenges or difficulties with governance and security make it a fertile ground for these illicit activities to thrive without much scrutiny. Whilst the full extent of these connections or links is still being investigated, these revelations raise serious concerns. The question is, how could such a vast or massive international network operate unnoticed? And what does this say about the broader systems that allowed such activities to occur? That is the question. As we move forward, ladies and gentlemen, the first world document showed that Tanzania and Senegal were likely not places of active abuse, but rather part of a much larger network serving as key transit routes for these nations or countries are strategically placed along major travel routes, which actually makes them central to the discussed in the past, ladies and gentlemen.
The dossier includes Epstein's conversations with associates while in Kenya. Most messages appear to be casual travel chatter discussing flights, safaris, photography, celebrities, and vacation plans.
Guess what? Tanzania, known for its wildlife and of course stunning landscapes or environment, is also close to a vital shipping lanes allowing easy access to international routes. Senegal, located on the western edge of the continent, ladies and gentlemen, serve as a gateway for travel between Africa and of course Europe. Both states or countries, despite their roles in this tragic or catastrophic narrative or story, must actually now grapple with the implications of this revelations. This pattern, ladies and gentlemen, of using transit routes is part of the complex and global nature of Epstein's network. It shows that no region was safe from exploitation, and of course that the vast range of international is a problem that requires a coordinated global response. At this point, ladies and gentlemen, make sure that you're going to do the needful, because as I said earlier, we need more important and valuable people like you to make sure that we build a neutral and analytical community so that we can actually better understand what is happening about Africa and the entire globe. So just like and subscribe in case you haven't done it already. Now, precious family, guess what? With the fast continuing to unravel the connections or links between Epstein's network and several African states or countries like Kenya, Somalia, etc., it is clear that this story or narrative is far from over. The recent revelations should serve as a wake-up call for government, institutions, and of course citizens around the world to take a harder look at how such network operates. If Africa was a target for this global rights, then no part of the world is safe, ladies and gentlemen. The consequences of these findings go beyond horror. They highlight the importance of stronger international cooperation, better surveillance, and of course more accountability. The facts, ladies and gentlemen, have opened doors not just in Africa but globally, ladies and gentlemen. How many more nations are involved? That is the question. And what can be done to stop such operations from growing? That is the second question I have for you. We must all come together, ladies and gentlemen, to ensure that those who were victimized by Epstein's network are remembered, their narratives or stories told, and of course their suffering acknowledged or admitted. It is a call for action, justice, and of course accountability that transcends borders. Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen, for joining us on this journey, okay, through one of the most significant investigations of our time. Please like, subscribe, and share this particular analytical video, okay, to more important people like you. Most especially, I believe definitely we have people who want to know about this. So make sure that you push this video to them.